Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ibuma Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs, the X Review edition. Before I continue, I'll urge you to please press the like button so we can get the show going on the algorithm. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And as you all know, Elon Musk purchased Twitter, made it open to all news strands, and now it is the #1 platform in 150 countries. As a geopolitical commentator, I take these deep dives into the geopolitical news that find their way into my news feed. And without much ado, let's just start today's program. The first story I have in my feed here now is a story on about let's see, I think Ukrainian MiG-29 strike Russian airbase. Watch as the precision bombs smash through the roof and detonate inside the facility, devastating impact captured. Yes, the Ukrainians have some punch too. Most times we tend to hear about the very powerful effect of the Russian fabs. Russia has three brands of fabs: Fab 500, Fab 1,500 and Fab 3,000. But the Ukrainians also have J drums. J drums are American supplied, and they use it too. The Ukrainians are not particularly out of this fight. They are really, really giving it to the Russians. And this is one of such reports. Ukrainian MiG-29 strike Russian base with AASM Hammer. There's no doubt that this is the most reported and most visualized war ever in modern day. And we see these images from, this obviously was from a drone, and it would be a Ukrainian drone that will be overseeing the operation itself. We have another one here now. This is a very interesting one. Could Venezuela actually use its F-16 against the United States, or does the US still have the power to disable them remotely? The question raises chilling thoughts. Yes, these days, American weaponry, especially the more modern weaponry, have kill switches in them. Before Venezuela became had a problem with the American state, before the coming of Hugo Chavez, there was good relationships between Venezuela and America because they have a lot of American oil companies in Venezuela. And it was at that time that the Americans sold about 24 F-16s to the Venezuelans. This report here by this person may tell us a lot about it.
Venezuela uses their F-16s against the United States. Does the U.S. have the ability to disable them? Well, they technically can, and it has already begun. Let me explain. In 1982, Venezuela purchased 24 F-16 fighter jets from the United States, making them the first Latin American country to acquire these jets. But after Hugo Chavez became president in 1999, Venezuela turned against the United States. And in 2006, the U.S. banned and cut off the spare parts supply. Then, Chavez threatened to sell the F-16 to Iran, and at least one was reportedly transferred for Iran to study. But is it possible to disable them through a hidden software inside the jets? There have been rumors that the U.S. embedded kill switches in exported fighters, but this has never been proven. Fighter jet sales are made directly from U.S. companies to foreign governments, with little involvement from the U.S. government.
Well, this is a very important, this is a very telling report. But I think over the time, the Venezuelans have updated. They have had more cooperation with Russia and with Iran. Iran is very important to Venezuela. And it's one of the reasons why possibly hawks like Marco Rubio are pushing the American government into overthrowing the regime in Caracas, because Iran has helped them to revitalize their oil industry. Iran's technology is coming to be seen now by a lot of people. We saw their ballistic missiles. We know they have a big agricultural industry. They have an automotive industry, and they are very, very good. They have now built their own technology. Look at the technology in the oil industries. So Iran has become a very big friend of Venezuela, and it is for that reason that one of the main aims of the people, the hawks who want to remove Hugo Chavez, is that they should get Iran out of Venezuela. We have here now the next story. Russian Army T-62M tank survive hits from 25 FPV drones. The crew survived. These days, the drones are the terror of the battlefield. And oh boy, what this is terrible destruction. But one of the most important thing is that the drones could not really destroy the part of the tank that would have led to a cook-off. A cook-off is when the arms inside, the artillery shells inside the tank start to blow off, and then it destroys everything about the tank. The tank did survive. It can be rehabilitated despite this horrid look that it has. FPV drones now define the war front, and that's why mechanized warfare has really taken a backseat. This is a very clear illustration of what FPV drones do, and 25 of them, that was quite a lot. Let's go to the next story now. What do we have here? It isn't Trump, Zelensky, or Putin, nor is it MAGA, the Ukrainian or Russian. The greatest danger to our peace and security is Keir Starmer's United Kingdom. We can no longer be quiet and polite about this. British establishment will have the world burned before the next general election. That is absolutely 100% their intention, and they will have to burn even if you are English. Maybe so. This is a very telling report.
We are working on operating with our Ukrainian colleagues. So we're very clear about the support that we're putting in. And the reason for that is not just because this is about Ukraine's freedom and sovereignty, but because it's about the freedom that we all have across Europe. This is, of course, a fight for Ukraine's future and sovereignty, but it's also a fight for Europe and for the United Kingdom. And therefore, this isn't.
We should know that the British really they have taken this war to a much more higher scope. They are the biggest threat to Russian response that may be very debilitating for the world. Britain has, particularly because they are controlled by the banking class, and their banking investment in Ukraine has made them very gung-ho about this war. Already yesterday in my report, I talked about how they have now had a military cooperation with Germany to continue to observe Russian submarines, and they have a nuclear agreement, because we should remember that Britain is one of two countries, with France, the only two countries that have their own deterrence, nuclear submarines, and other delivery systems, including Tomahawk missiles. They have been ratcheting up, and they have been taking a lot of asymmetric. MI6 is very much embedded in Ukraine, and they have been helping the Ukrainians to do long strikes into Russia. They help them fully in operating Operation Spiderweb. The British are really, I do agree completely with this report, that the British really are trying to take the world into a new space. That's World War III. China deploys its new HQ-13 anti-aircraft system designed to protect troops on the move. Short range and highly mobile, it strengthens the tactical air defense of the People's Liberation Army. The Chinese have ramped up their ability to innovate into the military space, and each day they continue to bring out new weaponry and new systems. We saw it in the September 3rd parade, how they have so many weapon systems. They even incorporate drones, fighter jets. They have a whole suite of them. We know they have stealth jets, and now they have the Fujian. The Fujian is the only aircraft carrier that can have on it, using the electronic propulsion system, to have the stealth fighters on them, the J-35 fighters. They are really, really moving forward and making America. This is signaling to America and signaling to every other threat, particularly the British threat, that they are very ready for them. But one of the things that the Donald Trump's America has done, is that they are going it alone, and they're not going into a war with being pushed and prompted by so-called allies. With M260 JTM in production and edging towards fielding, expected more. This is an account of old radar types never die. This is an account of a military supplier. Okay, let's move on. The British military called on their government to share nuclear weapons with Germany, writes the Telegraph. The reason for this is the alleged critical threat from Russia. The article says Germany is already conducting strategic talks on this topic with France. The publication claims it is noted that Merz hinted he is ready to discuss possible agreement with Starmer. This is happening amid growing concern that the US may abandon the defense of European countries. The material emphasizes. Okay, so share our nuclear weapons with Germany, says the British. This is a real turnaround in history. For we should remember that the Germans and the British fought on opposing sides in two world wars, two wars that reshaped and redefined the world. And now we read yesterday that they are already watching. They have a cooperation where they are watching Russian submarines in the North Atlantic and in the Arctic. And now we are seeing this. Germany is really finding itself exposed. All these years, it has relied heavily on American security guarantees. And unfortunately, now America has pulled back. And because America has pulled back, Germany is really feeling the heat of it. And Germany is now going to allies. Luckily, the allies recognize that they themselves too are very puny as a military group. After all, it is Germany that still has a large population. They have over 80 million people in population. But not only that, they also have a big industrial complex. And it will be a better coalition if you have Germany, France, and Britain together as they see it against the Russian juggernaut. So these reports and this movement shows how history moves. I keep talking about how the British and the French helped the Ottoman Empire to stave off the Russians in the Crimean War in 1856. Yet that same British and the French helped divide and tear up the Ottoman Empire after World War I through this PICO Accord that created the whole of the Middle East. So it's just interesting how the world and geopolitics continue to change. But that again is another story of how the British want to ratchet up that war going on in Ukraine. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte desperately trying to convince everyone who wants to listen that Russia is faltering, but the fact on the ground suggests otherwise. Moscow now holds roughly 21% of Ukraine territory and continues its advance, pushing steadily towards the desert. Let's hear what he said.
Is running out of money. And where there are marginal gains, they are coming at a huge price. Hundreds of thousands of Russians are dying for Putin's deluded aggression. Ukraine continues defending itself bravely, and our support to them is working. The truth is that Putin is running out of money, troops and ideas. President Trump said it very well.
If this is the only narrative that the West gets, then it puts a very bad spin on it. Unfortunately, the Russians' economy has grown. Their GDP has grown 4%. Their military-industrial complex has grown. The Russians are so lucky that this war actually happened because they had actually lost self-confidence in their ability to manufacture. This war has spawned a big manufacturing boom for the Russians, and not just in manufacturing. It has spawned a big innovative boom too. They are very innovative. Their military-industrial complex is very innovative. We have here one of the Ukrainian critics of Russia, and he says, as Russia continues to devolve into the 4th century, kidnapping from ransom is again increasing in popularity. Here in St. Petersburg, a group kidnapped the son of the State Duma deputy, after which he is confined and beaten until cash is transferred. Yes, you won't get any joy about Russia from Jay in Kiev, American in Ukraine. He really does post about all the bad things happening to Russia. Let's move on now to this story. Milei vows the freest country on his turn. He won the election. The Argentinian president won the midterm elections in Argentina. He was supported heavily by President Donald Trump. President Donald Trump helped his country, gave them approvals for loan advances of almost $40 billion. And he kept saying that if they lose, he will turn against Argentina. But he showed big support. And in the midterm elections, Milei won. And is celebrating this victory with his people, with his supporters. Argentina is still yet their economy is still broken, but that's it. BDS demonstrations in IPS Burger King outlet in Hyderabad. I don't know how this connects with geopolitics. This is the same story again. President Javier Milei party secures a significant victory in Argentina's midterm elections as voters overwhelmingly backed his economic reform policies. Okay. Chinese, meanwhile in China, this China and their innovation. A police drone fires a anti-drone net to intercept unauthorized drones. This is a story in it's the one of the accounts, maybe a YouTube account of RT. RT, the Russians will very much want to know more about this because they're in a life and death situation now with drones, and they are developing all forms of systems to try and curtail Ukrainian drones. So this definitely interests them. Police using drones to capture other drones.
飞，就看一个很大的一个飞机，就一下就把它抓走了。是什么航拍机吗？
We should know that when it comes to drone technology, the kings of it, the kings by a far distance are the Chinese. It is one of the domains they control so wholeheartedly, and all the drones you see being used in the Russia-Ukraine war they have components coming out of China. They have all their control systems and all. The company we know with the drones that define drone technology is a company called JDI. But China has the whole supply chain for drones. They are preeminent in it, and they are the number one for it. So they do know what they are doing there. Ukrainian military personnel from the 4th Airborne Assault Corps report that urban battles are ongoing in Pokrovsk. Russian infantry groups that are using their numerical superiority have penetrated the city. The Russians have limited their numbers in the way they fight their war. They have changed their maneuvering in the war. They are using all the advantages they have in drone warfare, in artillery, and in bombs like FAB 500, 1,500, and 3,000. They do all they can to limit human casualties. Already we saw when Putin went to meet Gerasimov to get briefed recently, he did mention that it's very important that they should limit war dead, the Russian casualties, because it's expecting, Pokrovsk is already encircled, Kupiansk is encircled, and they are expecting a counter attack. So let's see what this happens. No doubt about it. This war is just at the end of it. They've been encircled. 10,000 people, Ukrainian troops have been encircled in that Pokrovsk, and the Russians have demanded that they surrender or they'll be destroyed. Soulful Indian-Chinese instruments playing together in harmony. India and China have too much in common to be disrupted by geopolitics. Geopolitics is always the... But this is what they call human-to-human interaction. This is cultural bricks. The Belt and Road Initiative, as we know it, many people think about it only as infrastructure, but there is also a component of it that is the cultural brick, because one of the goals of the Xi Jinping policy is to lead to human-to-human interactions, and he has that. And their culture is a way of selling their soft power. So these interactions are people-to-people interaction. I think that's what they call it. So let's hear some. We should remember that these are two of the most, the ancient civilizations of the world. The Chinese civilization is over 5,000 years, just like the Indian civilization, very old civilizations. They are getting back their mojo after suffering under colonialism for almost 300 years. India particularly had the rough end of the British disrupting their collective civilization. We have two big news here now. Two U.S. aircraft crushed in the South China Sea. The Pacific Fleet announced. Yes, they are the ships they are part of the aircraft carrier fleet that has gone to support President Trump as he goes for the ASEAN conference. He's been in Asia for a week and they are making sure he's fully protected. But unfortunately, two of their planes crashed. One a helicopter, one an F-15 on it, and the President Trump has announced that it probably is from bad fuel. Apparently, it's not only third world countries that bad fuel get imported into. So this is the F-14 on it, and it was another helicopter too that crashed into it. If this crash had been caused by a country, that country would have found out the hard way. President Putin's envoy Kirill Dmitriev says Russia is seeking a permanent solution to the Ukrainian conflict. Dmitriev has been going around and having very powerful engagement with the American media. Some may like it, some may not like him. Scott Bessent the other day called him a propagandist. But as Russia's envoy and being given the rare privilege of having the Russian side point of view in American media, he did the most of it. He also went to some podcasters and he says that they want a more comprehensive end to the war, not just a ceasefire. As for the Ukrainians, they want a ceasefire very desperately so that they can rearm and relaunch again in some other day. South Korean President Lee Myung seen leaving for the next meeting at the 47th ASEAN conference. This is obviously an old tweet. What do we have here? The Russian channel compares the Indian and American metro. It's very condescending. Indian metro, it's not one of the best in the world, but it is still modern. And what do we have here? New Delhi metro and then New York metro. Yes, the Russians are doing to the Americans like what the Americans do to Africans when BBC and CNN and news, all the other Western media come, they go to the most slum part of Africa and report what happens in the slums of Africa and never give you the fact about how there's development there. So this is the New York Metro now compared to the Mumbai Metro, is it the New Delhi Metro? But truly, I lived in New York. I lived in New York for over 4 years. And this was one of the reasons why I left New York. The metro is broken beyond belief. Rats everywhere, crazies everywhere. You are always scared and worried that you may be pushed into the metro. And if you compare that to the modern metro in Russia, the Moscow metro, which is among the biggest in the world, the Shenzhen or the Shanghai metro, which are very modern, the New York metro is a 100-year metro that has just been left behind, frozen in those 100 years. It's very sad. It's not a good reflection of America's strength and America's power. The New York Metro really does need to be revitalized. One part of it has been revitalized, though, ironically, is the part that was destroyed during the September 11, the World Trade Center metro line. Anyway, more lights in Crimea and Donetsk than across the Ukraine. This is why people join Russia for security. Of course, the Russians are bombing the jibbers out of them. So it's very expected that there will be more light in Russia than there will be in Ukraine. But beyond that, the Russians have more access to infrastructure. Their infrastructure is more developed. The infrastructural growth in Ukraine has frozen. They are still hanging on to Soviet era infrastructure built for them in the Soviet Union. Modernization had been slow in Ukraine because Ukraine was dogged seriously by corruption. Ukraine finds itself in the midst of some of the worst corrupt countries when in the corruption index, and that really affected their ability to improve their infrastructure. So this is not a surprise at all. So Barrett has a YouTube channel that is very good. It's one of the few people that really did so much in opening up China to the world. Now China, the whole world sees China because a lot of people now go to China and see for themselves what is happening. And the Chinese have also very sure of their country and very sure of what their country offers. Have also now given visa free to 57 countries, and we see a lot of it in TikTok and Instagram these days. So Bloomberg just dropped a very interesting piece claiming China's control over the global medicine supply chain could become a nuclear option in trade talks with US. The report says that 700 US medicines rely on ingredients made in China, including antibiotics. And if that's true, it shows just how deep China's manufacturing dominance really goes, far beyond phones and EVs. While Washington is busy adding tariffs on medical devices and drugs, analysts are warning that the US is far more dependent on China's pharmaceutical ingredients than anyone realizes. So what do you think? China's pharmaceutical revolution is it's a miracle. While we talk about their innovation in the car space, in the EV space, in the drone space, their dominance in the pharmaceutical space is beyond comprehension. One of them is that they control almost 90% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients all over the world. So you need to go and get Chinese active pharmaceutical ingredient, then put them together wherever you are and claim you're manufacturing in your country. But that's not it now. China is now the preeminent researcher in medicine. They make advances. They bring out drugs for cancer. They bring out drugs, and their research acumen now is so advanced that it has gone far beyond that of Germany and Switzerland and America that we always used to know has been dominant in pharmaceutical and medical research. We should remember that during COVID, China had almost 5 countries that produced COVID vaccines, despite the big attempt of the BBC and the CNN to put down the Sinovac and there are very many vaccine drugs. They were the ones who, first of all, got those vaccines, and secondly, shared those vaccines with the whole world. So with they were now disparagingly called and made to be said that they were doing vaccine diplomacy, but it was through the help of the Chinese that Africans and Latin Americans and a lot of people got access to COVID drugs that was developed in China. They had even 5 different producers of COVID drugs in China. But I remember Sinovac very well. I don't remember the others again because that COVID era was a very terrible era. But they have this capacity for research and and the funny thing about them is, the interesting thing is that they do use AI. They use AI. The Chinese are the biggest people who have applied AI in daily life and across many categories of endeavors, including development of medicines. So now let's go into another drone again. The drones have really become the stars of the Ukraine war. Two drone footage of a lone Russian fighter dispatching 2 Ukrainian militants in Kupiansk's direction. Oh, sad. I won't want to watch this, but yes, this is just how the war is now. It's such a very visual war, and everybody sees it. U.S. Ambassador to NATO Whitaker, we expect Hungary, Turkey, and Slovakia to plan an exit from Russian oil. Unlike neighbors, Hungary hasn't acted. We work with them and partners like Croatia. That pipeline will soon close soon. So they must plan. If America was not an interested party in this thing, it would all this there will have some sense. But America is the largest producer of oil. Despite anything you hear out there, America is the superpower of oil production in the world. That is the truth. And it is them who, they have an interest in selling some of this their stock. They really do produce a lot of it. And that's why one of the things and the pressures they put on India and other countries is that you buy American oil, buy American oil. It's very important for them to buy for them. So when they try to stop European countries from buying Russian oil, because this is not the very first time, they had tried very hard to disrupt the Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2, especially under the first Trump administration. So they really do want Europe to stop any form of engagement of buying of Russian oil. But the Russians have found a way to continue to sell their oil. We should end with maybe this particular story. It's also a Chinese related story. Ted Cruz, China is engaged in 1,000 years war against the United States. That's funny because America is just 300 years. This is worse than when he couldn't answer a single question about Iran despite wanting to invade them. Ted Cruz is.
But the Chinese are engaged in a 1,000-year war against the United States. And their objective is complete and total global dominance. The United States, we are often slow to action. We tend to slumber on threats. But I think more and more people's eyes are opening up.
I'm sorry for the images. I've seen this video somewhere else. It was much, much sharper. The Heritage Foundation is a conservative think tank in Washington, D.C. The conservatives had to bring their own think tank out because the think tank space is dominated by liberal thinkers. And one of the biggest there is the Center for I think the one in New York, Center for Foreign Affairs or something like that. And Ted Cruz here, first we heard about how when Tucker Carlson asked him about Israel, support for Israel, he quoted the Bible. Now, another good talking point for him is that China is their enemy, and China has been their enemy for 1,000 years. America is only 300 years old. America is one of the great achievements of man. Because one of the things that people forget is that creating civilizations and creating societies is one of the greatest achievements of man. It's not in every locality that those things are created. I believe that civilization and the fact that countries find themselves and create systems that make them very veritable civilizations is one of the greatest achievements of man. Rome, the Ottoman Empire, and all the strands of empires, even the ones as far back as the ones in Damascus, the Babylonian Empire, and in modern time now, the British, they still are there. Although their own methods are very, very inimical to world health now, but they are there. They created a great empire where by force, most of them always tended to be by force of strength. The Chinese too have created something very unique to them. They didn't have to do it by force of strength, but they have created this thing. But America 300 years ago was not even a reality. And now America is one of the, if not the strongest country in the world. It is one of the greatest creations of man. It's just that if you're not part of that creation and that reality, you tend to be a little bit not happy with them. But it is one of the greatest achievements. It's only in America that a black man can go to space. It's only in America that a black man can be president of the most powerful country. I travel a lot and I see a lot, and I see that this is where, funny enough, most countries and most peoples tend to thrive the most, even though it is one of the most dysfunctional societies in the world. This is where I'll end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until my next video, you have a good day.